we're looking for is a nice large tree. And what I'm looking for at the top are just to see some of the pine cones that are open up on the top, because when the pine cone opens, it actually drops the nuts out of them. Let's see here. The other thing you want to look for is you want to look down on the ground. And on the ground here, you can see there's a lot of pine cones, but we don't want to even stop at this tree here because all these pine cones are dark. We want to look for some pine cones that are nice light in color, because those are the fresh ones that just dropped here in the middle of October. So let's head over here and see. Oh, there's some ripe ones. Let me show you guys what that looks like. All right, here's a large pine tree, and if you look up top there's like an old pine cone, but there's a lot of new ones that are opening. And if you look closely up there, you guys won't be able to see this, but there's a lot of pine nuts in those cones that are opening. So the first thing you can do to collect these guys, you can come down here and you can just look on the ground. If you look carefully, you could just basically, collect the little nuts that are just sitting here on the ground. And you're like, John, these don't look like the pine nuts that I get from the bulk bins. Well, that's because these guys right here are still in the husk, or the little shell. So these are very soft shells. You don't need a nut cracker or anything. I like to just take my 2 fingers, and if you're a lady, you might need to get a man to do this. But basically just squeeze them together, and they'll crack, and then I kind of roll it. And as I roll it, what you'll see is all the shell comes off, and there's that little pine nut that we know and love. Now, these fresh pine nuts, a lot different than the ones from the store. The ones from the store, the majority of the time, they're from China, and they're already pre-dried and ready for you guys to eat, and they can run like $20, even $30 a pound.
Right.
The other thing I think that's really sad about the pine nuts is that you guys are used to what the pine nuts taste like that comes from China, and that's a different variety of pine nuts. It's like they got Granny Smith apples, Fuji apples, and all this stuff. The Chinese pine nuts, in my opinion, are very low quality. They taste like crap, and most of the time, oftentimes they're rancid, because once you remove the nut out of the shell, you're exposing it to air. When it gets exposed to the air, it could go bad fast, much like an apple.